Yeah. You bet your butt that the Eagles have to really step up offensively this week on both sides of the football. But we're talking about the offense. We're talking about the receivers. We're talking about, it's not just about Jalen Hertz and Saquon Barkley, the offensive line, and Dallas Goedert. It's a lot more. We have news on Brandon Grant, Tampa Bay's injuries, and a lot more going into it. So let's go.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
This is a big week for the Philadelphia Eagles this week because players need to step up with obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith being out, and a lot more that we have to put more focus on, okay? It makes it much easier if, obviously, in this system offensively, if mistakes are not made by Nick Sirianni and whatever play calling that's being overtaken in certain situations and letting some of these other players, I feel like this offense is built for this reason. Okay, and before we get into all that news, this video is sponsored by BetUS, and this is a word from our sponsors at BetUS. If I'm the betting man, and I am, and you're rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is the redemption year for Jalen Hertz. This is the year we get the bad taste out of our mouths from last season. If I'm going all in, ride or die with a Super Bowl and bringing that Lombardi trophy back to Philadelphia for a second time, you need to go to BetUS, and I'm not wasting any time with it. I'm putting $500 down as the risk and getting $7,000 back at the end of the year because this offense is going to be explosive. This defense by Vic Fangio is going to be dynamic. A 150% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Click the link in the description below. Start betting and start winning. When you talk about stepping up, yeah, I mean, guys have got to step up. Now with no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, it's just seeming like they are not going to be back. We already know this at this point. So you're down to Johnny Wilson to get whatever he could get this week. Had a nice first down last week and then had that, I thought, a nice ball placement and a contested catch and just couldn't come down with it. And I think more opportunities will come of Johnny Wilson going down the line. Now, Paris Campbell is interesting because there was some news that came out. We all know when Paris Campbell really early in training camp was the leading man at wide receiver 3 for a long time, then had the groin injury and didn't really come back until really the joint practice, played in the third and last preseason game or maybe the second. I'm not sure how many reps he had, not really much, didn't really show much either, and has had somewhat has come into some games, a couple of games, and a catch or two, nothing crazy. And unfortunately, this is where we're at right now. Paris Campbell did not make the initial 53. He wanted to leave the practice squad. He said it was more of a pride thing, because he probably thought that he failed himself, that he had a big shot with that, wide receiver 3 position. So with a close talk with Nick Sirianni, he brought him back to the practice squad. I guess that's what happened. And Paris Campbell really needs to show up this week, okay? He's mostly a really, as outside, inside, is mostly a slot guy, but, could be that number 2 this week. I don't know where they're putting guys. They might be moving guys around specifically for specific plays, whatever. But, you're hoping for some big things from Paris Campbell. Johan Dotson, okay, this is a first-round talent, okay? Whatever the rumors were with Johan Dotson with, Dan Quinn and the Commanders, and he, expected the job. And apparently there has been a big loser mentality when it comes to the Washington Commanders, even during this training camp process. And obviously dealing with the last few years where Johan Dotson has done some good work on the outside, playing on the inside, and obviously the big rumors of Eric Bieniemy last year that didn't use Johan Dotson the right way. So he comes to a very special situation where the Eagles trade for Johan Dotson, coming in as the number 3. No pressure at all, not even as the number 2 because of the weapons he has around. Okay, he was a major factor in that mesh play where Dallas Goedert had that, got that big catch on the left side where he made, Johan Dotson made, that fake pick play. He made 3 Saints players run into each other. So he was a nice little focal point there. But how many more weeks is it going to take for Johan Dotson to be caught up with this offense? I think by now he really should be caught up with the playbook and really needs to be a big focal point to this offense because Johan Dotson has been a starter. Johan Dotson has been the number one. He's been the number two. He's been there, okay? And Johan Dotson needs his opportunities going to this game. You trade for a guy like this, which was a steal trade in my opinion, because I feel like we're still going to see some good things from him. If they go into this game and completely ignore Johan Dotson, then I don't know really what to say. But he did get traded late to Philadelphia. You have to give it some time for him to click with the guys and obviously with the playbook in general as well. But I'm expecting big, big, big things from Johan Dotson going into this game on Sunday against Tampa Bay. Okay, this is what your offense was built for, these moments. The Johan Dotson move is just one of those moves where, God forbid, you had an injury. Now, this is different because now you're losing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which really doesn't help. But you still got a first-round talent receiver in Johan Dotson. You need someone at least average to capable to play on that inside as the number two, whoever it's going to be. Whether it's, I don't know if it's going to be Johnny Wilson, probably not. We'll see what happens as the inside receiver, Johnny Wilson, mixing some guys up. Britton Covey will not be playing. He's got the broken bone in his shoulder, will be out 6 weeks. At least if Covey was back, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. But they're going to probably have to move guys around constantly. Double tight end sets, Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, Dallas Goedert, we know has to be, really involved. And then obviously when they fill, the box will be filled to its point. Okay. More defenders in the box. And that means a big run game. Okay. With Saquon Barkley. Don't want to put it all on Saquon Barkley's shoulders, but if it's a wet, somewhat day, that day after the hurricane rolls by in Tampa Bay, it's not going to be there, hopefully by the time that the Eagles play on Sunday, but the Eagles definitely have to run the football as well. So there's so many parts that really need to work, and Nick Sirianni needs to keep out of it. If there are points to put up, opportunities to put points up on the board, the Eagles cannot sit there and make these mistakes because without Devontae Smith, without the safety blanket for Jalen Hertz, I think the one issue with Jalen Hertz this season so far, besides a turnover game, he is not used to throwing to these other receivers. Simple as that. He's comfortable with Devontae Smith. He's comfortable with A.J. Brown entirely even more. But when it comes to these other receivers, the chemistry just wasn't there, and it seems like the throws were just really off. At times. I don't care if he threw over 300 passes, without an interception in training camp. It means absolutely nothing now. Now you're playing real football. You're not in a controlled environment anymore. So I think that's been one of the biggest weaknesses of Jalen Hurts as of right now when it comes to, being able to have that chemistry with every receiver. God forbid you're in a situation like this. Like I said, the Johan Dotson trade, I think, proves that if you're in a situation, we expected maybe one guy to go down, but not having your two superstars, your 1A, your 1B receivers not being in this game, now guys really have to step up, okay? And Johan Dotson needs more opportunities this season because I think theoretically he could be here this year, next year, and then we'll see what happens. But we need promise, and he's cheap. You know what I mean? So we need promise that Johan Dotson stays in this offense, does really well, and could get his catches. I really want a receiver to shine in this game. As much as I want Saquon Barkley and Dallas, I want everything to be as easy for Jalen Hurts as possible. And Jalen Hurts, I want him to really have the trust because it goes on the line, guys. Like if there's a guy that's missing passes, dropping balls, whatever the case may be, Hurts will not try to look his way when it comes to with his progressions if he feels like he can't trust a receiver. I really want him to trust Johan Dotson more than anybody. I think Paris Campbell needs to be involved somewhat. I'm not saying that Paris Campbell needs to have 200 yards receiving, but he has got to be involved in this offense. Okay, don't know if they're going to involve John Ross in the offense. Obviously the punt returns are going to be interesting. So I don't know if John Ross is just staying on the practice squad for now. Are they going to elevate him, or is Cooper DeJean going to play the punt returns? So we'll see what happens with that. If they want to add John Ross in that Covey move, if they want to, on the pre-snap motion, if they want to use him for specific things, we'll see. My voice is still messed up from Sunday. I don't know how I still can't talk. And Sunday was a while ago. So I'll deal with that right now. But that's what I'm saying, guys. It comes to chemistry with Jalen Hurts. I think that's been one of the biggest problems, that he's too comfortable with Goddard to come, and thank God he's actually getting comfortable with Goddard, because I feel like Goddard has been, because he's always hurt every single year, and Goddard really doesn't get the opportunities because either he's not playing or the Eagles barely use tight ends, barely used them last year, to be honest with you. So I'm really glad that that focal point is with the tight ends, but these other receivers have got to get involved in this game, and Jalen Hurts has to be on cue, and the decision making from the coaching staff on third down, fourth down, whether you're in red zone, goal line, I don't care where you're at, you have to make things simple. If you're third and short, if you're second and short, run the football. Seriously, because you have an actual 3-down back making $12 million a year that could push piles with his big ass thighs. There's no excuse to run any trickish type plays. You are dominant enough up front. Okay, Fred Johnson in or not, Lane Johnson in, whatever the case may be with that, Mekhi Becton coming back. You are dominant up front enough to say you don't need the trickery. You don't need to dial up these cutesy type plays that goes nowhere. Read option keepers, QB draws, you name it. That's where we're at with that whole situation with the wide receivers, and guys got to be involved, and Hertz has to be on cue with that, because really going into this Tampa Bay game, I mean, the injury list is as long as the fucking Bible. I mean, it's bad. Okay, there's literally guys either having light practices or not even practicing at all at this point. Okay, defensive line taking a hit. Everybody, and guys, like, this isn't not normal, but there are guys always dealing with injuries. There's probably a bunch of guys that aren't on the injury report for the Eagles that are dealing with their own stuff right now. Okay. But Tampa Bay, a lot of guys are dealing with stuff on the injury report, and it's a lot. So, taking advantage of this situation while having your 1A and 1B receivers, and your defense is going to have to play lights out, obviously, against Evans and against, obviously, Godwin, that's dealing with an injury as well. And, the Broncos got to Baker Mayfield 7 times last week, and they're going to be coming in. They're going to have a home game pissed off, ready to go. So we'll see how it goes going forward. And we'll see just what direction we're going in. And lastly, I want to go over Brandon Graham. Now, it was said the other day, Brandon Graham, I think from what it is, 36 years old as of right now. I like the way that Vic Fangio is not holding him back as he's retiring after this year and needs a ceremonial year where he just gets enough snaps here and there. No, it's like Vic Fangio is unleashing him like he's 24 years old, 23 years old. Okay, like he just got drafted. That's how they're unleashing him. Brandon Graham had a couple pressures and 2-3 tackles, against the Saints. I thought he played phenomenal as a rotational edge rusher. Thought he played really good. But the main thing is this. Okay, Brandon Graham has said if it's after this season and the Eagles have no interest in bringing him back, he will retire. He will not sign with another team. It will never happen. He will never go anywhere else. If the Eagles decide to bring him back as a rotational guy, which I don't see why not, I think it would make sense, because really depending on, I think Josh Sweat is going to be gone. Okay, Bryce Huff, we need to see what he does this year, if he gets better, if he gets worse, if it's a standstill. I don't know what's going on with that, because you've already put money into that position as is right now. So with Brandon Graham, I think would be if he, can play well the rest of this year, come in as a rotational guy next year. If the Eagles want him back, it wouldn't shock me if they It would shock me if they really didn't, to be honest with you. If he had a bad year or had an ACL, knock on wood, or anything like that, then I could completely understand that. They just don't want to take a shot, take a shot on the guy once again to bring back for more injuries or anything like that. So as long as BG can stay healthy, I feel like he will be a Philadelphia Eagle next year. But as a rotational guy, he's playing fantastic, and just keep it rolling. I like how Vic is just being very aggressive with him, does not care about his age, doesn't care about nothing. Brandon Graham is being treated like a player, not treated like an old player that needs specific amount of reps and can't play that much. And he's unleashing Brandon Graham every single game, and that's what we want. And I don't think Brandon Graham even cares about that at all. So I think that's really important going forward when it comes to this defensive line. And that defensive line, you better get those 4 man on the line, 5-man fronts, get these one-on-ones, and start getting after these QBs. They did a fantastic job last week. Let's continue it. I really want to see Bryce Huff have a good game. I really want him to do something in this game. At least makes me feel better. Like, okay, he just needed a few games in this new system. Still learning the position, as Vic Fangio says. It's crucial for him as the most important guy in the defensive line because he's making the most money out of everybody. And that's where we're at right now. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about Johan Dotson, Paris Campbell. Who really needs to be involved? Do you think Jalen Herz has an issue with chemistry with some of the other receivers, not being able to throw to the other receivers because he's so used to throwing to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and get this run game going, the offensive line, and make things simple? What do you guys think about that? Tampa Bay's injuries, Brandon Graham, and all of that great stuff. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. I want to thank BetUS for sponsoring this video. Get a 150% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Keep betting on the Philadelphia Eagles because you're going to win a lot of money this season. Okay, promo code YouTube150. Okay, you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes what up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.